You don't have to do that, sweetheart. I've got enough pride left to pay for my own gas. Della Briggs looked up from the nozzle she'd already locked into place and met the old man's eyes. They were the color of a winter sky, pale, tired, but still holding something quiet inside them. Something that had seen too much and learned to carry it without complaint. "Sir," she said softly, pulling her jacket tighter against the October chill. "I know you do, but I want to." She meant it. That was the thing about Della, she always meant it. The Hargrove Road Gas and Go sat at the edge of Millbrook, Virginia, where the highway curved past an old grain silo and a diner that still served coffee for $1.25. It wasn't the kind of place that made news. It was the kind of place that made mornings bearable for the people who lived between the cracks of bigger stories. Della had worked there for 2 years, since she was 22, after dropping out of community college when her mother's health started failing. She hadn't been bitter about it, not exactly. She told herself it was temporary. She still told herself that, though the word had started to feel thin. She was 24 now, dark-haired, quick-eyed, with grease under her nails that no amount of scrubbing fully removed. She had a laugh that made strangers feel like old friends, and a habit of remembering names. Every regular, every passing trucker, every grandmother who stopped for a lottery ticket and stayed 20 minutes to talk about her garden. The old man in the beat-up Chevy pickup was named Harlan Voss. She'd seen him 3 times before, always on the first Saturday of the month, always around noon, always paying exactly to the dollar, and never accepting help, despite the fact that his left leg ended just below the knee, replaced by a prosthetic that clicked when he walked, and clearly gave him grief in cold weather. She'd never asked about it. Some things you learn to see without making a person feel seen in the wrong way. But today was different. Today Harlan had counted out the bills in his wallet twice, then sat there very still, staring at the steering wheel. She'd watched from the corner of her eye, watched him fold the wallet closed, watched him look at the gas gauge, nearly empty, and then at the road ahead of him, like he was doing math that wasn't adding up. Without a word, she walked over, smiled at him through the window, and started the pump. "You're a stubborn one," he muttered, but the tension around his jaw had eased. "My mama says the same thing," she replied. "I take it as a compliment." He'd laughed at that. A real laugh, short and rusty, like a hinge that hadn't been used in a while. What Della didn't know, what she couldn't have known, was that Harlan Voss had driven 40 minutes that morning to visit the grave of his wife, Loretta, who had died 7 months earlier. He'd used the last of his month's discretionary money on flowers. The pension stretched, but it didn't stretch enough. Not anymore. He had a son, one son, and that son had called 2 nights ago, voice careful and professional, even with his own father, asking if Harlan needed anything. Harlan had said no. He always said no. Saying yes felt like surrendering the last small fortress of the man he used to be. His son's name was Callum Voss, and Callum Voss was the governor of Virginia. 3 weeks passed. Then on a cold Tuesday, a black SUV pulled into the Hargrove Road Gas and Go. A man stepped out, tall, dark-coated, younger than his position made him seem. He walked with the kind of steadiness that comes not from confidence alone, but from carrying quiet things for a long time. He went inside. Della was behind the counter, restocking the coffee station. She glanced up. "Hi there, what can I get you?" "I'm looking for someone," he said. "A young woman who works here, dark hair. She helped my father a few weeks ago." Della set down the coffee sleeve slowly. "Is he okay?" "He is." Callum paused. His voice dropped. "He told me what you did. He didn't want to tell me. Took him 2 weeks to say anything at all. That's my father. He'd rather go hungry than ask for grace." Della looked at the counter. "I just filled his tank. It wasn't a big thing." "It was to him." Callum's voice held something difficult. "He cried when he told me. My father has not cried in front of me since my mother's funeral. He said, He stopped, cleared his throat. He said a young woman looked at him like he was still worth something. The silence between them was full. Della didn't say anything for a moment. Then, he is worth something. I hope he knows that. He's starting to, Callum said, because of you. What came next was not immediate. It unfolded over weeks, the way real things do. Callum, through quiet channels, learned about Della, not because he was investigating her, but because he asked the station owner a few honest questions. And the owner, old Pete Garnett, talked for 40 minutes straight, about her mother, about the college she'd left, about the scholarship applications she'd filled out twice, and never submitted, because she couldn't bring herself to believe they'd land anywhere real. Pete had found them in the break room trash once. He'd never said a word, but he'd kept them. Callum made a call, not to use power carelessly, but to open a door that should never have been this hard to find. The Virginia Foundation for Working Families had a full-ride scholarship program. Della had never heard of it. She received a letter on a Thursday morning in January, just as the first real snow of the year was dusting the pump canopies. She read it 3 times, standing in the cold, her breath visible in small white clouds. Then she sat down on the curb and pressed her hands over her face, not from sadness, but from the overwhelming strangeness of something good arriving when you'd stopped waiting for it. She called Callum. He'd left a card, quietly, without ceremony. I don't understand why you did this, she said. My father served this country for 22 years, he said, lost part of himself doing it. And somewhere along the way, the world started making him feel small for needing help. You didn't do that. You just, he paused, you just filled the tank. That's all it was. That's never all it was. 6 months later, Della was enrolled at Virginia Commonwealth, studying public health. She worked part-time at a community clinic on weekends. She called her mother every evening. She didn't stop being herself. The woman who remembered names, who noticed when someone was counting bills too carefully, who thought that small kindnesses weren't small at all. And on the first Saturday of the month, sometimes, when the highway curved past the old grain silo and the diner with the $1.25 coffee, a beat-up Chevy pickup would ease into a parking lot near campus. A man with a clicking prosthetic and pale winter sky eyes would sit across from her at a corner table. They'd drink coffee. He'd ask about her classes. She'd ask about his week. He told her once, unprompted, staring out the window at the snow, Loretta would have liked you. She had the same thing you have. That way of making people feel found. Della didn't answer right away. She looked at her cup, then at him. Tell me about her, she said simply. For the first time in a long time, he did. Kindness is rarely loud. It doesn't announce itself. It lives in a hand on a pump handle, in a laugh that doesn't ask for anything, in the quiet decision to see someone fully, not as a burden, not as a charity case, but as a person still worth every good thing the world has to offer. Della didn't change Harlan's life because she was extraordinary. She changed it because she chose for one small moment to be kind. And kindness, it turns out, has a way of filling more than just the tank. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Let's spread more stories of kindness and hope together.